So now I'm like, I still got night sweats. I'm not sleeping properly. And it got to the point year after year that I thought, this just must be it. So kind of got into a level of acceptance with it. And it wasn't until then I started recycling my plasma that it stopped, completely stopped.
All right. Welcome everyone to Sex, Lies, and Menopause. Today we have Fiona Gardner with us. And I'm just going to give a little intro about Fiona. She is an expert in plasma microscopy and the healing properties of living water. And we'll explain all of that. She has trained and works with the Beagleson Academy and uses microscopy to observe the living structures in blood as well as in plasma/urine, revealing sacred geometry, symbols, and patterns that indicate the body's self-healing capabilities and its use as a protective and healing substance. Fiona's journey into plasma urine therapy began as a personal exploration of natural healing methods and led to the discovery of the remarkable healing potential of plasma urine. She speaks eloquently about the profound intelligence and spiritual insights that can be gained from studying the structure of water, specifically the fourth phase of or structured water found in urine. She also has discovered the energetic connection between a person and their urine, even when separated by time or distance, and how urine retains and reflects the individual state of consciousness. Amazing. Thank you so much, Fiona, for being such a pioneer in these seemingly esoteric dimensions of plasma. We'll call urine plasma during this. Yeah, we're going to call it plasma because it just sounds so much better. So just wanted to say thank you. And would you like to share how you got into all of this?
Okay, so thank you so much for inviting me onto your, I love it, Sex, Lies, and Menopause. Fucking awesome. I love telling people like, yeah, I'm going on the Sex, Lies, Menopause. So yeah, so thank you. I feel like it's been probably more like a lifelong, to get to where I am, lifelong journey. But I started my journey with microscopy work with the Beagleson Academy, learning about the holographic nature of blood, and how and looking at how the plasma presents itself. So that was my starting point.
Can I interrupt you and just ask you, what do you mean by the holography of blood?
So within the Beagleson Academy, within Dr. Harvey Beagleson's work that he's done for the last 40 years, looking through the microscope, specific type of microscope, the blood actually presents holographic images that look like, say, like a kidney, a heart, looks like the diaphragm. It's kind of like the body saying, hey, this is where there's a lot of hard work going on here. I really need some support. I really need some help. So it's actually showing where a person's body is, maybe where they're struggling, where there's stagnation, where there's blocks in their body, where maybe the meridians are blocked. And we can look at the energetic, emotional patterns of somebody. So we're looking at like conflict, shock, and trauma. So they're all presented as a holographic image. It's not actually in the blood, but it's an image. It's, yeah. And how does the body do this? How incredible is the fluids in our body, our plasma, to be able to project these images and show that this is where I'm having an issue. I really need help here. So what it does for our clients is it really helps pinpoint where their root cause is, where they really need to be working in their body, instead of like, oh, I've been detoxing for 5 years and I've been taking, all these supplements. It's like, yeah, that's not working for you. Let's see what your body is actually saying, where it needs the support. So
Okay.
that's what I've been doing for a while. And I was kind of looking for God at the same time. Where are you? I don't know, that's this inner search for that I was being guided to. I didn't know what it was, and I thought I would find it in the microscope. And through the Beagleson Academy, I learned so many incredible things about somatids and how our bodies work, and it is divine. So I tell people I had like an eat, pray, love moment. I just broke down. I was like, I've been on this journey for so long, I wanted to experience my essence while playing this like physical game of life and trying to understand what's going on a biocellular programming level. So my journey was in the health world. I broke down. I was crying a lot, and I heard the voice. It just said, look, it's in your waters. And I thought, I'm just going to Google because I don't know what it is. So I put in your waters, and urine therapy came up. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I was piqued. The depth of what I felt, just seeing this information, I was like, oh, I'm doing this. So I followed somebody and watched her process of what she was doing. And I was kind of like, ooh, because we're so programmed.
Totally.
And that's why I don't really like to use the word urine anymore. I do like to use the word plasma because this is more what this is. This is more about our blood, the plasma structure that's within us, but also the plasma in this etheric field that we move within and communicate within. Doing the process, I was like, oh, because we've learned that urine is waste, it's disgusting. We have so much programming about our pelvic areas, our sexual motive, everything, from the belly button down, we've been told is disgusting, and that we have some serious issues if we're too interested in anything that goes down around there. Anyway, so I just started gently integrating it into my lifestyle. And then that was when I thought, I'm going to look at it under the microscope, because my intention was, if I'm seeing those holographic images in the blood, what can I actually see in this ultrafiltrated plasma? What's it going to show me? So I was all like, oh yeah, I'm going to see kidneys, I'm going to see all this like cool stuff, and I didn't see nothing like that. So, but I was seeing other things that hooked me. I was like, oh, this is interesting. What's this? What's actually going on here? So I spent a couple of months just exploring that with my own plasma as I was recycling my own plasma too, because I was trying to see how the work could align, looking at somebody's blood and looking at their plasma. How, does the body process something a little bit more when it's come out as plasma? So I had all this inquiry and questions about the relationship with the two. There was some relationship. I was seeing some things, but it wasn't until about the fourth or fifth month in that there was this image of Buddha appeared. And I got goosebumps all through my body. I was looking through the microscope and I was like, what is going on? What am I seeing? That's Buddha. That's a Buddha. I can see the light shining from his eyes, their eyes. They were in a seated position. And that's then when I felt the shift within me that, okay, this is going in a different direction, because I was also feeling the shift and the change within myself with recycling my plasma, that, okay, there's something huge here. So it's been a journey for like the last 4 years,
Mhm.
looking at mine, looking at other people's urine, looking at animals' urine, looking at babies, children, people that recycle their plasma, people that don't recycle their plasma, to get a broader understanding of what am I actually looking at. And what I can actually see in people's plasma now is that relationship that they have with their ego self, their consciousness, and their sentience. And it's an incredible dynamic dance. It's just blowing my mind. It's just so beautiful that we are so incredibly divine and wonderful, inside out, that these heart harmonics that get expressed in our plasma, just, yeah, so it's fascinating. So even after 4 years, I still feel like there's still 4 years of more of learning and uncovering, but this piece is really significant. And it's also the piece of like and we will talk about is the kind of waters that we put into our body and how that impacts our
Okay.
health and well-being. That's kind of what I've learned in this whole process. In the beginning, I was drinking everything. I was in that process of I didn't know what was going to happen to my body. I didn't know how things were going to go. And now I don't necessarily drink everything, but I'll collect it and I'll save it and I use it for like foot soaks, for my skin, or if I hurt myself, or I've got backache, I'm going to use those, I'm going to do wet soaks on my body. People get a bit put off because they think they have to be, oh, I've got to be looping and drinking and drinking. You can do that and have the experience of cleaning your body up. It's very, very powerful, but I like to work with people in a more slower approach of like, let's look at your blood first. Let's see what your body's communicating. Let's look at where you're at, and then let's build up so that you can have success, to keep doing it continually. It's more of a devotion. I want people to be successful in their healing and feel the benefit and to connect intuitively with themselves. You are now reintroducing yourself, because held within our plasma, like I mentioned, when we look in the blood, we can see trauma, we can see abuse, we can see if some sexual abuse, any kind of it shows in the blood. So you're going to have to realize that somebody's going to start to recycle that back into their body. There's going to be responses and healing and things that will change and shift for themselves. Um, so I just like to work with people on that level of where's your body actually at and what's your body actually communicating, what does it need? So everybody's different, because some people are like, I can't put it in my mouth, please, because their level of disgust of themselves is really strong. So let's introduce yourself slowly so you can love yourself again, basically, because that's what you're doing, because you're going to be recircling that through your heart, your harmonics, and your frequencies. So there's a lot to it. Even though it's really simple, it's impactful, it's life changing. Yeah. So
OMG. That's amazing. Really incredible. I want to go to your journey, your health, your healing journey now,
okay.
and include the menopausal aspects
Oh yes, yeah.
and the teeth.
And the teeth. Definitely, because that's all everybody wants to hear about. They want to hear about the cesarean scar and how I dealt with the adhesions and the teeth, but the menopause. So that takes me back to when I was living in England. I'd had three kids, three cesareans, a lot of interference with the medical profession. It got to a point where I was so ill that they were like, we're going to put you into a menopause with these specific injections, and that will help us determine what's going on with your hormones. I wasn't, I was just looking for answers at the time. So I did these round of injections for 3 months where I had no more cycles. It was supposedly a menopause reaction that was going on in my body. And at the end of that, they said, we don't really know what's going on, but we think the best thing would be to take out to give you a hysterectomy. At the time, I was 28 years old. Let's take out your womb, let's take out your ovaries and put you on hormone replacement. And I remember so with my third pregnancy, I was really ill and I had to go into hospital. And I was in the hospital ward with all these older women that had had hysterectomies. And they looked at me, and the conversation they said to me, because some of them had had cesareans and gone through similar stuff. I remember them saying, whatever you do, honey, don't ever let them take your womb, because you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Makes me want to cry, because I think of all those women that have had their wombs removed, their ovaries removed, because it's such a power center, that they said you'll have health problems for the rest of your life. They all had bladder problems. They were just problems. Nobody was healthy. So I always remembered that. So when this doctor said to me, I went, oh, hell no. I said, I stood up, I said, I'm going for a second opinion. I said, you guys are crazy. And I left and I never set foot back in a hospital ever again. I was done. I went I went to see like a naturopath who told me I was allergic to everything. So I went down that path of and felt better for a while. I did raw food. I went on a raw food, health, vegan lifestyle. But so what happened I was 37. I was in America at this point. I think I'd been here about 3 or 4 years. Um, I was now 80 pound in weight, fatigued, had no energy, couldn't understand. I'd done all this healing work. I changed my diet. I'd cleansed, I detoxed. I'd done that for years, but here I was really thin, no energy, 3 kids. And I was having hot flashes constantly, the sweat of a night, the sweat in the day. If I was making food for the kids, I'd have to strip my clothes off and be naked making food. Even in the middle of the winter, if we were driving around, I'm stripping layers off, opening windows, sticking my head out. The heat that was generated in my body was intense. I didn't know what was going on. And that's at that point when somebody said to me, you need to go and see this guy, Dr. Harvey Beagleson. He'll figure out what's wrong. And I'm like, yeah, right. Okay, I'll do it. When I got to him, what a godsend that he could pinpoint. He actually said to me, you have the blood of an 80-year-old woman. And he looked around at me, he said, are you a vegan?
Oh
And
no.
like on my high horse. Well, yes. Why would I'm never eat meat, and all that stuff. That's where I was at. So he said, yeah, you've got the blood of an 80-year-old woman. And he pinpointed where the issues were. It was all with my cesarean. It was all with my umbilicus ligament. It was the compression on my body. My body couldn't process. It couldn't even detox properly. So working with him got me, it leveled me out a lot. And the thing was, because of my age, we were really trying to figure out, can we kick my cycle back in? Because that wasn't natural to him. That's not natural for that cycle to stop. And for me to have been experiencing what I was experiencing. So it never really came back. It would spot, there was, but I was feeling better. My energy came back. I was so much healthier.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, so that was the start of where but the heat thing
Yeah.
didn't stop.
Didn't stop.
That was the only thing I was getting the night. It wasn't as prolific through the day, but it was night sweats of a night. So now I'm like, I still got night sweats. I'm not sleeping properly. So those things were still going on. And it got to the point year after year that I thought, this just must be it. This just be that process. So kind of got into a level of acceptance with it. And it wasn't until then I started recycling my plasma that it stopped.
Wow.
Yeah, completely stopped. So when that happened, I was not so like taking in my plasma, I didn't know what to expect because I was suffering really bad with backache. That was my thing too, because of the scarring. So my pelvis, I'm always having to have that area of my body worked, with my osteopath, to create the strength because the adhesions weren't going down. They did limit off, but they didn't go completely. So there was like days where I'd spend 2 weeks in bed if my back went out. The pains were horrific. So when I started the plasma recycling and seeing that, okay, that menopause stuff stopped. So I collected my urine, like aged urine, and I had fresh. So I was constantly soaking my scar and the adhesions and my back. And so then that started to change. I don't, you know what? It's been 4 years. I go and see my osteopath for a tune-up, if that, but I've never had a situation happen because it would happen at least 2 or 3 times a year. Severe, but if I like bent funny, I was out for days, and it was like horrific pain. I'd have to have strap my back up, with something really tight, even to walk.
So,
But since recycling my plasma, I've had no back pains. The adhesions eliminated, the scar softened. It kind of came more or less like invisible because my belly and that area, oh my God, I used to look at it and think, oh my God, it's so ugly because it was just like a big bowl of like porridge and tapioca, but it was also sensitive to touch. It felt like, the nerves were dead. Like it felt weird. And I've spoke to other people with cesarean, like, yeah, it feels like, ooh, you get like an electric shock or something. It's just all weird stuff. So yeah, I don't have any issue. I don't have any backache anymore. So to me, it's like, these were not things I was expecting.
right.
It changed. It was drastic. It was life changing. I was sleeping like a baby, no night sweats, and not to have that back pain, and to see my adhesions and cellulite disappear, to watch my body tone, to watch my skin change as well, was pretty powerful. And I was like, so here I am looking at the thing, seeing butter. I'm like, there's something to I
Combo is
gotta stay in this field. There's something going on here. So then that's when the teeth thing started.
okay. All right. Well, now let me just so it's a combination though of putting the aged urine on your scars
I was
or
doing aged and fresh
staying fresh, and you did it quite a bit, and you were so it's
every night,
you're doing it every night and
every night.
also looping. So it's like you both, I'm sure, were
At
necessary.
that time, yes, both.
Okay, great. And how long do you think it took for?
It only took a few months. I'd
Wow.
say it's about that 5 month mark after the 3 months. Because I was looking at it's interesting, like trimesters, like when you have a baby, because the other thing too, when we're forming in the womb, it's the plasma, it's the recycling of plasma, it's how the baby is also creating a homeostatic environment for itself. It's penetrating mostly through the skin. There is stuff going inside the mouth. So the skin is the biggest organ that is getting soaked. So you're in that soaking all the time. So that's why I'm always soaking my skin, keeping it as wet as possible. So I'm in that looking at the different stages of development of myself as I'm taking in the plasma. I forgot what the question was.
Oh, I wanted to know how long it took.
Oh.
You said a couple of months, or did I
Yeah, it
ask
was like that 4 or 5 month,
5 months?
it was the transition as we're coming into spring, because I'd started in the fall, like in November. So as we're coming into March, April, spring, and just being outside, and then using it on my skin and being in the sun and just looking at my body and being like, wow, there's no cellulite there. I'm not holding on. The adhesions have gone down. So and I was like, oh my God, I can see my scar. Because I used to have to pick up the roll to look at the scar so I could actually see my scar, and I could see that it was small because before it looked stretched across my body. I thought it was a big long scar, from hip to hip. So as my body's changing and the adhesions are being broken down, I'm like, oh my God, it's a small scar. I never thought it was a small scar. I thought it was huge because it looked big, because my body was stretched and had all the adhesions and all the other issues there.
Wow.
So yeah,
Um,
long. It doesn't take long. It's powerful because what it's doing as well, which is really important because of what I know from looking at blood, because everybody talks about, oh, the charge on the cell, the cell wall, these little supposed cells that are in our body. That's a deeper conversation. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole today. Anyway, so they need to repel. When we look at blood, we can see it stacking. So we can see the body's really trying to stack the energy so it has energy. But it's not the charge on the cells that are important. It's the charge in the plasma. because it's the plasma that affects the charge on the cells and everything else. It's not because anyway, so that's a bigger. So when you're recycling that plasma, it is now changing the charge in your plasma. So you have more energy. So then the cellular, biocellular processes change. So there's more space, there's more energy. So then the body can open up and clean out. So we're looking at that plasma field that is housed by the microbes, because they're the ones, the somatids, microzyma, there's lots of different words, are processing the energy in there.
And so I just want to make sure I understand when you say sometimes you're saying the plasma field, is that in the blood or the plasma field?
So if you're looking at like the fluid of the blood,
Yeah.
like so water, easy water, those components, we'll say that's plasma. It's where all the microbes are. There's a whole thing, do cells, are there actually really cells? Because when the blood comes out the body, the blood changes immediately. So as the cells are created after it comes out the body, because
Oh.
when you look at blood inside the body, it doesn't necessarily look like that.
Huh.
It's more of a fluid. So
Oh.
it's the charge in this fluid, I would say. So we're not breaking it apart and saying, oh, cells, this and that. Let's just look at this fluid that we actually are, because we're actually fluid beings. You know, it's important that we learn that about ourselves, that we are fluid, that we undulate and that we move in a certain way, that we're not these bits and pieces and particles that make us up. We're this fluid plasma.
Well, this is so perfect because I studied fluid movement for decades,
Oh,
and
yes.
so I love that you're bringing that in, and it's just, yeah, that's okay.
So
Great.
that's another way we can communicate with it, is in that, with what the work that you do, that fluidness, our breath,
Yeah.
you know, how we breathe, how we move.
So interesting. I have to, this is totally aside, but in when I was studying it with my teacher, she would demonstrate this automatic fluid movement that would kick in. And we would try and do it. It was just like it was never automatic until I did something else called, um, after studying with her for 14 plus years, I then did some uh, trauma release exercises where you induce shaking to like the way animals shake their trauma off. Well, you learn to do this shaking thing, and then somehow from then on, I would just drop into my body, and then this automatic fluid movement would start happening. And when I found out about the fourth phase of water, I thought, oh, it's the water in my body that is literally, because no one could explain, why is this happening? Like, how does this happen? So I thought, well, maybe it's the fourth phase of water just naturally somehow deciding to move me now. And after years of studying fluid movement of like undulating, it was automatic undulations now going on. And
Yeah,
I
so you're improving that fluidity, you're improving that charge. So you're moving the stagnation from the body too when you're recycling your plasma. You're creating a more beneficial environment for your microbes, that are these are the things that are powering us. They're the things moving us. They're the things nurturing us, cleaning us out. I mean, we have such terrible programming about microbes and bacteria and their life cycles and their purpose and why they're there. And they are, to me, they're like the messengers. They're like God's little messengers in our body. We can't exist without them. And there's nobody on this planet that can live without them. They're everywhere. They're in the air that we breathe. You can even see them. There's a fluid movement to them as well. And they all move fluidly together within their environment. They never knock into each other. They're very aware. They'll dance. They'll, all what we are, how we're created is incredibly dynamic and beautiful. And I have such honor and respect for the microbe world because we can't, well, we won't exist without them. We
Okay.
need to stop bashing them.
Okay, we're going to stop bashing them. Okay, so
So yeah, fluidity.
fluidity. In terms
Be-
of menopause symptoms,
Oh, yeah.
just wondering if you had any libido related.
Oh, yes.
Sex Lies and Menopause wants to know.
I want to make sure I get all these notes because these were like things that I forgot about, you
Ah,
know?
yes, yes, so many things.
Yeah. So even after I tried all kinds of things like the progesterone creams, Ayurvedic herbs, teas. I did lots of testing and the cost and everything of all that put me off. So what I found also improved was my pelvic floor strength.
Oh,
So, okay, before that, libido. Yes, libido. That changed completely. Um, I I felt more sensual, right? I felt like there was just this change within myself. And especially like looking at like my vaginal area. We talk about drying, pain, all those kind of things. So I started douching with my urine.
right.
So I had like these like 5 ml forget
Syringe or
syringes.
yeah.
So I was doing that regularly with the soaking. So I noticed that I was like, I just felt yummy. And I think that, that ties into all anyway. But there was just something shifting and changing. I could feel it. There was a change in how that felt. I noticed how, so my pubic hair, because it was more coarse and it was going gray, and I know that from my older women friends, they're just like, shave it off. It's awful once you get old, and the same with my mom. So what I noticed was that the softness came back to even my that the pubic hair. And I don't know, it's kind of thing in America. Everybody likes to shave it all off. I'm from Europe. We like to keep it there. It's kind
Right.
of a nice comfort thing because like when I shaved it off the first time and looked at it, I went, oh my God, I look like a child. Give it me back. Give me my hair. Anyway, so I noticed that softened up and became very soft. So something that else that was changing, I wasn't peeing in the toilet anymore. So I had a bowl. So I was always peeing with a bowl and squatting. So I noticed how then the strength in my pelvis, and this could have added to me not having the back pain anymore as well. That changed. So I was able to control my flows very easy. I can stand up and pee however I want to pee. I don't have any issues with a weak bladder anymore, or spotting in that way. Like if I laughed, I would always go, oh my God, I just peed myself, so the strength in that area improved drastically to the
Wow.
point where I feel like, so I can go outside. And this might be a bit past too much information, but in the summer, so I'm like, okay, I want to like soak my body and just be in the sun. So I can stand and just catch handfuls and
Right.
rub it, and then I'll get another handful, so nothing gets weight. And I'm like, wow, this is so powerful to be able to have such control, to
Mm,
have such a strength here that there's nothing. I'm not losing anything. I just felt empowered and strong in my body because I had a brother when I was growing up and I used to watch him pee. We'd pull over in the car and I'm like, I want to pee like my brother. I want to be able to stand up and pee too. And mum's like, little girls don't do that. You have to go and find a bush over there, be concealed away and pee behind the bush. But my brother could stand there and just pee no matter who saw him. So I think it was an empowering moment for me that we can build such strength in our bodies in these ways. That all the stories we've been told, like your sex lies and menopause, it's all
yeah.
freaking lies. We don't even have to go into a menopause. It's all lies.
Right. Like that one woman who never had menopause because she'd been doing it for 30 years or that
Yeah.
tea. Right.
Yeah. And how with the amount of water, even the programming, such as the programming with the water, we're constantly drinking lots of water and we're told you have to drink that amount of water. I see people, they carry a water bottle everywhere. Look, you're flushing it all out your body. You're flushing your body of its nutrients, its hormones. You're creating all kinds of problems for your organs because everything's getting dehydrated inside. So you're actually setting yourself up in later life for, yeah, kidney problems, urinary problems, heart problems, because the heart and the kidneys, they have their own circulatory system together, of how they process plasma. So you're setting yourself up for all kinds of problems by the amount of water you drink and what kind of water you're drinking.
Right. And what, okay, go ahead.
No, I wasn't sure if you wanted to go into the teeth and then maybe go to the
Yes,
water.
that's right. But I just want to make sure if we've covered all of the menopause. So libido, you started feeling more juicy, basically.
Yes.
Okay, good. Where you hadn't felt it, and now you did, and you were naturally more hydrated, so you're probably juicy, physically juicier. You weren't dry.
Right. I used to get a burning in the pubic bone area. I don't know if other women have that problem. And it would really, I'd have to really like, oh God, it burns like my pubic bone area. So I felt like I wanted to like really like scratch it till it was red raw to relieve whatever that burning was in that pubic bone area. So that stopped. But the other thing was the vaginal discharge and odor
Yeah.
with the douching, that changed. I didn't have a discharge anymore. There's no odor. So I was like, don't even have to wear underwear. Yay. So all these things were changing. I just want to make sure yeah, so that
And the 5 mils of just squirting urine, was it always fresh inside that you squirted, or
in the
do you,
beginning, yes,
in the beginning you used fresh and then you went to aged?
yes. Because that's an intuitive thing that you've just got to be a little bit more aware of because you want to use less. Maybe you want to dilute it down with fresh. Because I've had some instances when there was too much fire in the plasma.
Got it.
When I did inject it, I was like, that was on fire, and my body like wanted to expel it immediately. So there's a learning curves with, gradual, start with fresh, dilute it, to really get to that where you feel comfortable, so yeah.
And the 5 mils, was that just small enough that you could just do it in bed and not worry about it leaking everywhere? Or did you do it in the bathtub or?
I would just have a towel on the floor. It was just mostly in the evenings. I'd just lay there with my knees up, and I'd just let it. And sometimes like if I would just lay there for like 15, 20 minutes because it was just part of me reconnecting, doing breath work, just listening to music, winding down for the evening, getting my pads on, to soak myself up. And sometimes if I got up, I would have a towel because sometimes some would leak out and sometimes it wouldn't. It just depends how the body's going to absorb it in that way. Yeah.
And then one other question, then we'll move off of that, is are you familiar with the term of having armor in the vagina where there's areas that are numb or that they've clenched from, that's where we've held trauma? I just wondered if the urine would have,
A little bit because I've had that myself.
yeah. Do you
Yeah.
think the urine helped with that too? Yeah, yeah,
I think it helps on every level. And I know like structural work for our bodies really important too, because our bodies can get compressed. It's really important that we have that as well to, keep the body, the pumps, all the different diaphragms in our body flowing so that that fluid can move
right,
fluidly through the body.
right.
But I feel yeah, I think it gets to the areas where the stagnation is, where the inflammation is maybe trapped, like
Yeah.
with the adhesions from surgeries, especially dental work, especially because there's a lot of trauma and trapped inflammation from dental intrusions, procedures. So it goes in and it works all those points, everything.
It's
It
just
doesn't leave anything undealt with. It's going to go in because you're working then with the microbes, so their terrain is changing. It's becoming more beneficial, so they can transform and evolve, because not only are we evolving as a human species, but they're evolving because they're the ones in charge. So you're actually giving them the fuel to evolve to their highest potential. So when you're giving them that, they're going to create an environment that is for their highest potential and benefit. So they're going to be, I basically say, because I used to call it's reincarnation wine. They take out the dead. They're like, we're taking out everything that is not going to benefit. We're going to take out that everything that is maybe not of the body. Also, that's why I have the story about my teeth. It's the same with the hair. When you're soaking your hair, it's going to be like, that's not natural. It's ripped out and it's gone. So not only does it rip it all out and get rid of it, then it starts the process of rebuilding and rejuvenating and regenerating where those things were not natural.
great. So this is a perfect segue to go into your teeth.
Teeth.
Sure.
So even my dental history, that was another piece of the work with Harvey that I learned. My mouth was a mess. It was an absolute mess. I'd had so many teeth removed. I think the earliest I was in a dentist was 3 years old. I have so much trauma from dentists for the things that they did that I have a fear. I've always had a fear going into adult life of like, I'll avoid it like the plague. So problems would happen. And it would be like, oh my God, now I've got to go to the dentist and you've got to get another amalgam, or, the fillings and everything else. So I had a lot of that in my mouth, especially surface ones, where they put the amalgams over the surface of the teeth. So I started, I don't even know how I even started to think that they could heal my mouth. I think it was this whole process. So I would swish a lot and
Yeah.
hold it in my mouth a lot and then swallow it. I was also doing a lot of taking it in through the nostrils, because that helps clear inflammation in the face, the brain, in the throat, in all these pockets of areas. So I was like, okay, I know it's about trapped inflammation. Let's focus on these areas. So then I was like, I'm going to use aged urine in my mouth every day, and swill it round. So I did that for a while. So then what started to happen? All the amalgams. Suddenly I was like, what's all this? I
So
thought, oh God, my teeth are falling out. What's happening? So I was constantly spitting bits of bone out, but it wasn't bone. It was the amalgams that were all. So this is me. I'm intense. I go in hard. And I realized this was information. This was a learning curve for me too, especially with working with people. Um, Remind me to talk about the hair too after the teeth thing. So I was like, oh my God, it's all the amalgams. So I could see all this dead area that the amalgams were covering. It was brown, it was black. I was like, oh my God, what have I done to myself? What the hell have I done to myself? But I thought, I'm like, okay, there was that part of me that has really tapped in deep and devotion to this. I'm like, okay, if this is true, that we can regenerate and rebuild, then that's going to do it. So I held on to that, and it's been a process of 2 or 3 years. It's not an easy process for people, because the things you have to do to allow that enamel to grow back is a lot. And I'm lucky I work at home, so I don't have to have like people. That was back in the day anyway. So it was all coming out.
but
So
hang on, just from swishing with aged, you didn't do compresses. You just
oh
swish.
no, I did. Sorry, I would make cotton pads and put them. I would no, I did this afterwards. No, this came afterwards. No, this was swishing.
Swishing.
Just
How aged was your urine?
pretty aged.
Like over.
We're going sometimes 2 or 3 years
Okay.
or a year, or sometimes it was a few months.
Got it.
because I have a collection, some of it's 4 years old, that I've been taking care of and that I use. And it's pretty potent. So yeah, so all that was coming out. So that's when I thought, okay, no, my teeth aren't going to fall out. There's no way my plasma is going to say, oh, we're going to rip all your teeth out now. I thought that's not how this works. So I thought I'll keep going. So I did pads with the cotton wool, and I would put it inside, and just leave it for a while. So I was noticing I was doing this constantly. So then after I can't remember if it was a month or so, I could see that the enamel was starting to grow back. And I was like, is this true? And it's got to the point where it's more or less grown right back up to the gum levels. So, and I have some actually, it happened, it was about 3 or 4 months ago, another one came out. So I was like, oh, I don't care, it's fine. But we're looking at a very exposed area that normally I'd be in extreme pain and would have to go to the dentist. So also when you're swishing, if you have toothache or you have cavities, um, swishing with the urine, the pain goes.
It goes, oh, that's so good.
Eliminate pain. You're actually putting something in there that's supporting that regrowth. So I've been able to watch over the years how my enamel's grown back. And it took a lot of I'd say like dedication to myself, or this process of working with the plasma, because I'm at this point I'm feeling divinely guided. I'm in tune, I'm really like listening and feeling into this experience that I'm having. And I think again it goes to that point of that trust we have in ourselves, in our own faith, because I think we get rocked. I do, and I still do, like, oh no, what's happening to me? Where's my level? Can I trust this?
Right.
I had a lot of fear in my life. So that's another thing that the plasma recycling has shown me, that I don't have fear in that way anymore. But sometimes I'm like, oh, is this really going to work? You question things because life is life. We're getting hit every day by our experience. I'm not saying like my life is perfect because, oh, my enamel's growing back. I still have layers, because there's layers. I'm 57 years old. There's layers of my life. And I notice in this recycling how it takes me back to experiences or moments in my life. And I'm like, oh, wow, I'd forgotten. I have no memory recall of that. And I can see even that child self healing,
Mm,
shifting and changing. So we're a process of
mhm.
unraveling, because how often can we get into that fluidity? We get knocks, we fall over, we get in accidents, trauma happens.
Yeah.
Family member dies, one of your kids is going through a terrible experience, you lose your job, you lose your home. These are like experiences that we're having in this physical game, this realm that we exist within. So that's why I'm like, I have to stay with it daily, because we live in a realm where this is needed to recycle. We're not perfect human beings like that baby in the womb, where the baby can just recycle its own fluids. That's probably the perfection when we'd want to get to, that we're not actually eliminating any plasma at all, that it's naturally recycling. We're breathing in the sun and the light, and we're living in that way. We're not there as a collective species yet. So we also have to be aware that we are processing not only our own trauma, we're actually processing others, the collective trauma. We're processing any trauma to the earth. And that's why I say to people, stop pissing your plasma out into the toilet for it to end up in a sewer where it's getting chemicalized and then it's getting recycled back into our environment. And we are recycling, people are recycling trauma after trauma, because they don't realize that they're giving their life force away, and that they should be healing it personally, not dumping chemicals into it, because then we're breathing it all, it's coming back in. So there's to be aware that there's a bigger thing going on. and we need to take control of that relationship that we are cycling, because we create within us. Even when I look at the images in plasma, we're creating the images, we're projecting them out into our environment, we recycle them back in, and if we're not healing, we're just spewing
Wow.
over and over again. So the hair.
Okay, right before you go into
Okay.
the one more question. The compresses, when you were putting them in your mouth, do you still put them in your mouth every
Oh
day?
yeah.
Every
Hmm.
day. And how long do you leave them in to, or does it matter?
It depends. Sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes an hour. Sometimes I'll go asleep with them still in my mouth.
Mm.
Sometimes the kids will come in my room, they'll ask me, and I'll go,
Got it.
I'll have to take it out. And I'm like, what? So it varies.
Okay. Awesome. And I just want to say that I've gone to a dentist who does not do any fillings, doesn't do any of that stuff. And he put me on a protocol where I was working with my sinuses and this concept that because if you keep your sinuses clear, because I had, I think, chronic sinus issues and didn't even know it. I just have 5 weeks of blocked ears every once in a while. I was like, what's
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
But we can have these blocked sinuses, and that's impacting the flow of the teeth. The teeth are these open channels into the jaw, into the bloodstream. And so his whole thing is eating in a way that doesn't clog you up. You don't eat processed foods, and there's other pieces to it. But I just wanted to say that this snorting with the urine has upped my game with my
Yeah.
teeth and swishing. And he noticed it too when I went to see him a year later. He was like, oh,
Yeah. The nasal part is, for me, the most powerful part of the plasma recycling, what it does and what it clears out. Because also, when we think of our teeth, all the meridians of the body come through the teeth. They're all connected to our organs of our body. So we're enhancing those circuits and the information that's moving through the body. So keeping this area clear and the inflammation is, I'm like, if you can do anything, snort it. It's so powerful. And even I would put it in my ears as well. And
yes, he said I would use a solution, but now I just use urine. I do all of his protocols and just add urine.
yeah, it's pretty powerful. And I feel that's one of the reasons why as well that I don't have as much toothache when things expose, because I keep that area clear.
It's moving, yeah. It's not being blocked by fillings and traumas that they do at the dental office.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So the hair thing is that okay to go on? So
Yes.
that's really important too, because I would do a lot of hair soaks at night. I would soak it, I'd put a cap on, and um
Ah,
that's what I did. That's a whole process too. But it's, if you have like, if you've bleached your hair, if you've done hair colors and things like that, that's another thing to be really aware of, because I'd actually, before I had bleached hair, it was blonde, it was all like whatever. So what I was noticing was all my hair was falling out. Or it wasn't the natural hair, it was the what bits that had the bleach on it.
right.
So that was coming out in clumps, but my hair grew back, and I actually went I hadn't been to a hairdresser for that whole time, and I went and, like, it was last year, I went to a hairdresser who knew me before we all went inside.
Yes.
Um Um, and she was like, "Oh my God, look at this, look at that." And I was kind of like, what is it?" I said, "Is it all split?" She says, "I can't believe how much regrowth you have in your hair, how
No.
much hair has regrown." She says, "I've never seen anybody with such healthy hair, and especially like with my age and
Wow.
everything else." And I noticed that it wasn't going as gray anymore. The color was coming back. It's thick. It's just healthy, and there's so much more of it. And now it has more of like a natural curl to it, which is really interesting, because I always had fine, straight hair
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, so that's been so it's another thing to be aware of if you're using it in your hair and you have hair coloring or it's been bleached. and you suddenly find, oh my God, I'm losing hair, I'm not doing this anymore. It's pulling out the dead again so that the good stuff so it can regenerate and grow back.
And are you using aged for that as well?
I was in the beginning mostly fresh.
Mostly fresh.
Um, and that's a process too when you're going through that because it can be really sticky and you can be like, oh God, my hair is terrible. So then I would massage aged into my scalp. So
Uh-huh.
I would give more of a massage
Yeah.
with the aged. Sometimes I would soak it. But most of the time, what I'm actually doing is when I'm in the shower, I'm passing plasma. I'm just kind of washing my hair and rinsing it out. And I do say to people, they're like, well, because of the stickiness that can happen, especially if you've got a job, a 9 to 5 job, and you've got to go out, you're greeting, being with people. Sometimes it can be really sticky and feel just, oh, heavy on your head. So making say like rosemary herbs, nettle, like making a rinse
Rinse.
for your hair afterwards so that it can, just soften back up. And you're using herbs and things, chamomile flowers, you can even use essential oils because it will help. Because some people are like, well, I don't want to do it because it's this, it's that. There's things you can do to just compensate it.
How do
I
you,
like to do nettle and rosemary soaks on my hair because I like the smell. I like the way it feels. So
yeah,
it's just an extra piece. If people think I'm not doing this because my hair's falling out, there's a reason why. It's from
right. And then with the hair soak, it just seems like the hair soak would be more powerful than just putting it on your hair and then washing it out in the shower, right? Like the hair soak really helps
yeah.
soak the scalp and
Yeah. That's why I would do it of a night and put a cap on and go to sleep because I also had this was another part of my with Dr. Harvey Beagleson, I had a really traumatic brain injury. So I always used to get this weird feeling in my occiput. I would get a lot of neck problems. So part of doing the head soaks was to help with that head trauma and the pains that I got because my ear would sometimes be really sensitive on this side where I'd hit my head. So I noticed that it was helping with that as well, that I don't get because I would wake up in bed at night and I couldn't move my head. This is before plasma risk because of this injury. And when you can hear like really high frequencies of vibration, and it started to scare me. I was really worried because I couldn't, it was real stiff.
yeah.
So when I started doing more of the soaks, I don't have any of the head pains or any of the trauma related stuff that I would feel
Wow.
within that.
And are you doing these soaks every night or are you
Don't
doing
do them I really don't. I haven't done them for a while, to be honest.
yeah.
I'm more focused I love like foot soaks, body soaks. What else? The neck, because I do hear a lot. So I feel there's a lot of it clears a lot out. I'll wash and soak, especially in the summer. It's through the fall things change, but in the summer I'll soak it and then go out and let it dry.
Yeah.
I'll do that, but I haven't done the night soaks for a while.
Okay. And the soaks, meaning the whole, all the hair
Yeah.
and into the scalp, right? Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And then I like you wring it out and then put like a cap on. And
Okay.
I would put a towel on my pillow as well for any like leakage.
Right.
Uh, Same with when I've got the wet packs on my body, I'll put a towel over that and a towel underneath, you know, to
It's
prevent.
almost like replacing castor oil. Castor oil,
That's what I did. Yeah, basically.
it's incredible. It's
So
so,
I'm gonna say any scars you have on your body, because I'm always amazed how many people have had their gallbladders removed and have scars or their appendix. I'm like, pad it up, soak it, with the plasma. It's going to be a lot more effective than castor oil is awesome. I love castor.
totally.
So I'm just like, just change it up and you'll see the difference. You know what we didn't touch on was that communication that we still have within our, because that's why I'm against, like, peeing it out, getting it chemicalized or urine and just flushing it down the toilet, because we are still divinely connected to it. There is a connection. So we can imagine that that's gone out into the environment and is getting chemicals dumped on it. In a way, there's that feedback loop is coming back to yourself. So I had a friend that shared her plasma with me. I've shared the story before because it's just like one of the most amazing ones that I've had. She'd given me her urine. It was around like the summertime, and I'd looked at it, and it was beautiful and everything else. And it was actually Christmas Day, so it had been about like probably about 4 or 5 months. It was still the same plasma of hers that I had at my home, and I thought, I don't know, I was just compelled because I'm like, okay, it's been aging and maturing. There's some information that comes within it. Well, I'm gonna look, and I looked at her urine and I just saw this image of this child, and this child had a crow, in her hand, and I was like, oh, that always makes me think of September, and I was like, this looks like a baby girl. So I was just taking all the information, and it was after Christmas Day. So I sent her the information in the new year, and she said, I just found out I was pregnant and my baby's due in September. So I was like, no way. Seriously, that didn't just happen. So through that time of her pregnancy, I would look at it at certain points and I would still see this young young child. It was a girl. I knew it was a girl. So we weren't like in communication a lot. And it was like the night before she gave birth. That day, I was like, oh, I'm gonna look at her urine. I was just compelled again. So I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's weird. I couldn't see the child anymore. The child had gone, but what was in its place was like a giant yoni that looked like it had opened. I was like, oh my God, that looks like a giant yoni opening up. And then there was like explosions of this incredible toroidal light all in her plasma. I sent her the information and she said, I just gave birth this morning to a baby girl.
Oh my
So
God.
there was still this relationship going on, like when you can get telepathic information, like, oh, that person called me and I was thinking about them. So the plasma was still evolving with her and it was showing this information. And I feel it's just all part of like what I'm learning and understanding too, that there is something going on here. And I have seen it in other people's plasma as well. There's different pieces of information that comes out for them that's really significant and profound. Because I don't know why. I'm not psychic. I'm not somebody that can channel and do all that kind of thing. I'm just reading the image from the plasma, this image that's being presented to me, like the way the Buddha image was presented to me. So that was one of the most powerful moments for me to realize that, yeah, we are still divinely connected to this. It's our life force, and we need to take back our power. We need to take back our life force. I mean, if you don't want to flush it down the toilet and collect it, go put it in your garden,
Right.
in your plants, find a tree, go bless something. You're not going to do something negative. To It's not waste. Stop thinking that you're going to harm or you're going to have some kind of weird disease from it. This is sacred life force. Find a way to stop giving your power away. Collect your plasma. Don't flush it away and take a jar with you wherever you go, have some way of like collecting it. And if
Right.
you can't, and it has to go down a toilet, then do some divine prayers and blessing and be grateful and say, thank you for being with me. You're going somewhere now and you're going to affect, bless it, change the charge, do something like that.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. That is really a great way to look at that. Like what to do when you can't collect it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Because that will happen.
yeah, that will happen.
There's so many things you can do with it. Or you can dilute it down and put it in a house plant pot as well.
Right.
I mean, I dilute it down. I give it to my dogs in their water. They go nuts for it.
Oh,
Or
good.
I've healed my pets from it. They've had so many things happen to them. So I They know.
I know.
I watch one dog. We've got two dogs. When one dog's peeing, he's kind of underneath enjoying it.
So maybe we should talk about the water now.
Water. Right. Yeah, that was a revelation. So I was listening to Jack Cruz a lot. I was hearing him talking about, he was calling it DDW. It's this deuterium depleted water. And I'm like, what is that? It's not something I've ever heard of. And he was talking about how levels of deuterium in the body, if you have high levels, they're like the cause of like disease. That's probably the root cause of everything, is the level of deuterium in our body. I had been looking at water under the microscope and thinking, okay, because there's a lot out there about water and information. I mean, and there's Vader Austin's work, which is phenomenal and powerful and interesting, and this relationship we have with intention and focus. So I'm like, okay, I want to look at it under the microscope. Does it look like that? No, it doesn't look like that at all. It's a very different picture. So when I thought, okay, I'm going to try the DDW water. So I ordered this water. I looked at it under the microscope and I was completely shocked. And I was like, wow, this water's like plasma. This is really interesting. It's had the deuterium depleted from it. So I started drinking it. So I did a 60-day kind of monitoring my plasma, what it looked like. And I actually watched how my plasma deconstructed itself. All the angles, everything started to, I can only say it's like watching the Matrix. I was just like, it's deconstructing. There's something going on here. I was feeling different. And I was watching then how my plasma was becoming more toroidal. There was more of this element of the sentience, of the flow, the fluidity, the movement, and it was going gold. Everything was going gold. And after 60 days, my plasma looked exactly like the DDW water.
Whoa.
So it was kind of mind blowing because I was like, okay, what's going on here? I don't know really what's going on here, but this is
Oh,
pretty phenomenal and powerful. I was able to see that, okay, these angles are changing. They look like they're more on a 60-degree angle. The color has changed. So the frequency and the vibration has changed. Everything changed gold, and I was completely toroidal. And there was a lot more sacred geometry going on. When I was experiencing this, the feeling that was coming into me, the information was, this
mm.
is where we actually engage our inner technology, gets switched on. And I was even thinking of the different microbes that don't exist in our body anymore, because that was something I learned with Harvey as well. Because we have such a toxic inner environment, there's certain microbes can't exist within there. So when we are changing, we are actually re-engaging those powerful microbes. Now they can thrive in this environment. So I think that is an expression of them, this sacred geometry. And it is our inner technology that switches back on. And this is where we then become more powerful than what is being pushed on us with that outer technology. We can switch our own on and we can impact our environments then we can be with another person, and our feedback loop and that technology is going to be stronger, is going to be the dominant force, and not like people say, oh, I was hanging out with all these sick people and now I'm sick. Well, that's because your inner technology is not powerful enough to affect that environment. I can go in an environment where there is that, and I don't feel disempowered by what other people are projecting off on me, because I've got my own feedback loop that is, because that's what I've learned with the plasma. If there's a higher charge in the plasma, it's going to change the cell, the charge on the cell. So my plasma is going to affect your plasma. It's going to bring you up. So you may have detox symptoms after you've been around me, or a healing thing, because that's how it's meant to work. So now I can go into my environment and yeah, I'll still be collectively processing trauma from the environment, but I'll be able to do it at a different level. And I feel that is what we're all capable of. when we engage our own energetic force that we are always divinely connected to, but you've got to switch it back on because it's dormant within you, and you need to create the environment that it can work within. So that's then, so 5G, all that kind of stuff, you're going to be more empowered in your environment to create change and to create healing. That's what I feel and think.
I love it. I love it. I
Well,
wish
it's empowering
it
because we're
is
all made to feel disempowered by so many things.
absolutely,
That annoys me so much.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that there are complementary practices, like you were saying, the breathing or breath work, and I've been learning this practice that that allows the energy within us to go out the crown and
Yeah.
go into the toroid, right? Like that's
Yes.
something that seems so subtle, but I saw my friend, her spine straightened. She had
Yeah.
and she did this practice, and I mean, it's just like I was like, okay. And how it's happened, how it's impacted me is that I I'm now operating in the mind, not just from my brain. And so I can be in the flow. And I got so much stuff done because I'd been doing this practice, and I had to deal with my mother's estate when she died. And I mean, I was just like, I just knew who to ask, when to shift somebody. I mean, it was just like crazy amazing. And it feels so complementary with the plasma looping.
Exactly. Because you're also communicating with the outer plasma field.
The outer plasma field. And now,
So we are a feedback loop.
would you say our auric field is the outer plasmic field, or is it
I
something
think it's part of all of it.
part of all of it? Yeah,
Yeah. And that we're in communication with it.
right.
So whatever we are feeding from within, you know, how whatever that is, whether it's trauma, joy, you know, all the things, we're having a relationship with it. So if we're not feeling empowered, like we're feeling like constantly under attack and
Right,
constantly poisoned, you
right,
know, we're a weakened field. We're communicating that weakened field back. We're just reabsorbing that.
right.
So when we get into a communication with it in a different way, like it's like Qigong too, you know, Tai Chi, these kind of modalities, they're empowering for the body, you know, the undulating, these are just our natural ways of being. Um,
As is connecting to your sexual energy and not having it shut off.
oh my gosh, yeah.
Like that's only going to add to the grand flow and the plasma field and I mean, it's one of our superpowers.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Fiona. Oh my goodness, this was beyond eye-opening and expanding. And thank you so much for all the work that you're doing and in expanding us with it. You know, like I just like you were saying, you don't even have the language for some of it, but you have quite a bit, which is I feel expanded every time I hear you talk because you're working it, you know, to explain.
Right. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you too for creating the space to have this conversation because I need other people. I need, you know, it's like the three of us that always get together, you know, it's that to have those conversations, to just expand this, to understand, to give language to it, to support and share. I think it's really, really important. And this is going to open up a space for loads more questions. I just
Oh, it
know.
is, yes. And yeah, maybe, yeah, there's a way we can continue with the questions. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But I look forward to the next time we reconnect. I really, it's amazing.